land in die eie witte akte. Eers die eienaars van die grond in die regering.
Greetings, South Africans. This is No Land, No Freedom, and we are so privileged to have with us Honorable Zwelakhe Mthethwa. I will leave it up to Honorable Zwelakhe to introduce himself and explain his role here in the National Assembly.
Greetings, and it's a great honor to have you, one of my counterparts from the legislature in KwaZulu-Natal. This is Honorable Zwelakhe Mthethwa, who is in the Portfolio Committee of Land Reform, Rural Development, and also Agriculture Portfolio Committee. And then in the caucus, I also alternate in terms of traditional leadership, which is part of COPTA. So, but that is where I'm actually playing my space most of the time. All right, thank you.
Well, South Africans, follow Honorable Zwelakhe Mthethwa on TikTok. He has a TikTok page. On my TikTok page, you'll see him featuring all over the place because I share his contributions, his robust contributions, hectic contributions. He is a voice other than, it's what to be expected from MK. So we salute you for that.
Thanks.
Thank you, and keep sharing your contributions as you do. And I hope that South Africans will follow him fervently. It is really a need. So back to what is today's subject. We are going to speak about President Cyril Ramaphosa and the Phala Phala report.
Okay.
And in terms of why doesn't No Land, No Freedom have to cover such a subject, it's simply because since 1913 not much has changed. The land still remains exactly the same as it was in 1913, where the land thieves basically received all the land that they colonized, and nothing really has changed. Honorable Zwelakhe, I also ask you to talk a little bit about the amendment that you are passing, because that is important. What this has to do with this podcast is simply this: where wealth and the land, and I use that intermittently, remains in the hands of Stellenbosch Mafia and the Rupert family, the Oppenheimer family, and the Rothschilds. This is in terms of banking. Where do you get dollars from? You usually go, ordinary people go and buy a few dollars when they travel overseas, having produced documents, etc., of where they're going for and how long they are going for. How does a vast amount of dollars get into the country, even if it is by a so-called businessman? And I think that everything has been proven to be so unbelievable and fraudulent. I mean, the invoice itself that was issued for the sale of the buffalo to this Ethiopian businessman. So it's one subject also that I'd like you to speak about. So without saying nothing more other than just giving that, given the link between land and the Phala Phala and why it needs to be discussed here, let me hand over.
Thanks a lot for your input that you've just given. The subject of land, and I think it's my narrative since I came into Parliament in the 7th administration. One, I've done economics at school, so I will give dual perspective more than just dual. In economics, land features in as part of the 4 factors of production. So when they say what are the factors of production in economics, it will be land. 2, it will be buildings. 3, it will be owner's equity, that's capital, money. 4, it will be labor. You need to have these 4 elements in the economic production and productivity, and you need to control these as an individual, as a government, as a company, and so on. Then you can be guaranteed that you are part of economic circulation. Economic circulates, money circulates, and for you to have a share of that economy, you either have to render a service through your labor, or you need to give seed capital towards the production or manufacturing of any goods and services, or you need to occupy buildings, either you own them or you lease them, or you need to have land, be the landlord, wherein buildings are built, because then you will derive your rental fees or your lease or out of your property, or then you are a banker, or you provide services. So these are 4 factors. In the South African history, we used to have tribes. When I say tribe, different tribes residing in different jurisdictions. In their jurisdiction, they will have enough land for settlement, enough land for grazing, for self-sufficiency. The manner of economy they were using was a barter trade, exchanging a commodity for another. So they will also relate with their counterpart. If here we are more focused on animal stock breeding or crop production, but we need sugarcane or oil, sunflower, you name it. The other tribe is specializing on that through hunting. Then we exchange. We bring our produce, which we specialize on, the other bring. That was quasi-subsistence economy, barter trade, as natives of the land. Until white settler came in through your Jan van Riebeeck in 1652, Vasco da Gama in 1498, and British also in the 1800s. All these 3 segments of white settlers, they were coming into Africa, specifically southern tip of Africa, because they had the similar issues of Strait of Hormuz, lock jamming, the passage of goods and services from different parts of the world. That problem 500 years ago is upon us in this day. We are living exactly that time. It is now that we are seeing ships docking at the southern tip of Cape Town now. They are looking for refilling their stock, refurbishment and repairing of their ship, and then for them to go to other parts of the world which they cannot access because of the Middle Eastern war. Now, as they traverse in our land, they then see mineral resources that are like idling as far as they are concerned. Led by King Leopold and the German Kaiser, King Leopold of Belgium and the German Kaiser, they sat down and called all the European countries, including America, by the way, and Russia. Russia at that time, they were calling their president the Apostle, of which is now a Christian term that is used for pastors. They were part of that meeting. They then said, let's dissect Africa for our respective continent or countries, change their culture according to the colonizing country in the African continent. That's how we ended up speaking English, because the British were dominant, but obviously preceded by the Dutch, who then led to the Afrikaans, which we now have as one of the languages. But before then, it was also the Portuguese through Vasco da Gama, who also came through here at the Cape. And then they entered into our land. In KwaZulu, the name Natal was actually coined by the Portuguese when they came into that part of the ocean through Mozambique, where they called it in Portuguese Terra de Natal. So the land of Natal, but the Natal name, it means December 25, there's a celebration of the birth of Jesus Christ. So as Portuguese, they were commemorating that day when they landed in Natal today, which is KwaZulu, and they found people of my pigmentation, which were different from the Khoi and the San whom they found here, but also they found some through Eastern Cape, the Xhosas, who had moved as we entered this part. The first dialect of the Bantus who came around 1050, the Debe people and the Lala people, of which the Mthethwa was a part of the Lala group, which is a group of surnames which you now find in KwaZulu. Nobo. Nobo is also having a very big following of surnames that come from them. Same with the Mthethwas and the Ndwandwes. We are coming from the Chandra. Those are part of the first. Then you have the Hlubis around 1200 to 1300. These are different staggered group which were coming up until already the Khoi and the San, they were already here. But at that time, the African continent was just one solid mass with no borders as we know them today, before the attachment through the Berlin Conference. So we were crisscrossing, moving in and out. That's why you'd find the Khoi and San in your Malawi, Tanzania, DRC, but they take the shape of the properties of the DNA of the people who were found in that area, cross-pollination or cross-marriage. And eventually you have different breed of people, but all of them are African. I think I'm raising that point so that the secular white don't play this card of Khoisan against the Bantus. Because the fact is, in my DNA, I don't produce after a kind of the Khoi and the San. I'm from this stock. This stock I can trace it back to 1000. And it has always been maintained. So it means you must be of a different gene pool, yet in the same continent. So it's a set of oranges, apples, bananas. So you can't then say, yeah, this one is older than this one, therefore this one came first and all of you came from the other. The question is, but we don't look alike. So, but yet in the same continent. So I'm raising that part because that's a narrative that gets played against each other and we end up being bogged down by that subject.
Yes.
Fighting for land. So we are resolving that you produce after your kind, I produce after my kind, but we are all in the same continent, same land mass, which was not barricaded by the colonial boundaries that we now sitting with. We then, in the OAU meeting, when OAU was formed, Organization of African Unity was formed around the 1950s, 60s, 1963, they resolved to say, let's not, now that we are claiming independence, let's keep these borders as per our colonizers until such time we reach a saturation point of agreement why the colonizers have divided us according to different racial, cultural groups such that the Francophone, when they speak, I can't hear them, but we are African. The Anglophone, when they speak, they are African, but I can't hear them. The Portuguese descent Africans, like Angola and Mozambique, I can't hear them. Why? Because we are not divided according to the colonial lines. Yet we are of the same stock. You can find people, I can tell you, in Cameroon, there are Bantu people in a province in Cameroon, which are of the same descent of the Bantus that are here. Whilst we haven't of late gone to Cameroon, but we look alike and you find the same DNA, you can be misconstruing that I can speak in my language. Because when I look at you, you look like one of my sisters. Because exactly DNA is the same. It was divided according to cultural orientation. But let's park that. Come back to the subject of the day. Why our president is conflicted? Why did we find Phala Phala? That's a question we must address. Yes, so coming back to today's topic, I was sharing this background to give you context why our president is finding himself with dollars in a sofa, which cannot be explained. Yet we have law enforcement agencies, we've got control, monitoring agencies, institutions, but no one can explain. One, this is the reason. Let's look at the history of how he entered into his office. When he entered office, he did something very strange. We thought that the ruling party then, African National Congress, would constitute a conference of 4,500 delegates who come from the length of South Africa. They constitute representation from different regions and ward and zone and all of that. But this time around in 2017, people were separated according to two slates. Those who preferred this candidate of our current president, we just realized that there was a donation style of raising money that runs into billions, which was a press used to coerce people in exchange for their vote. To say those who support this candidate, at least by day, you will have a stipend of 5,000 for the 5 days that you'll be in the conference. Then those who are standing with Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, they stand for a principle. The principle that says we need to change. And a woman candidate in the history of the African National Congress. So it was a woman who was principled against a businessman. Which then again we can take a detour a bit and say this businessman came about through the imposition of the establishment, capital, industry, money makers, business people. I want to locate this dollar to show you where they're coming from. He comes from where he was a director of over 56 companies. Check whose companies are we talking about? Not of blacks. Of white race. Okay, fine. They gave him directorship on all those 56 companies for a reason. But also, let's go back to the first African National Congress conference in 91 in Westville. He won the vote of that conference as the Secretary General. The amazement from the Rivonia trialists who came from Robben Island, and amazement of the exiles to say, hang on, this guy, what is so important about him that he managed to win the entire ANC, yet we didn't see him in the struggle. Now let's go back to the 80s. In the 80s, when they formed COSATU, Congress of Democratic South African Labour Federations, NUM, National Union of Mine Workers, they strategically told him to become the Secretary General of all these bodies, including the ANC eventually. So this was a staggered approach of a person who is being profiled, where he staged over 100,000 laborers who marched in the street of Johannesburg in the 80s, as if he's grounding the capital. You open him as to say, you are not going to do as you please. But little did we know, this is their student. As he is an attorney or a lawyer, go to Urban Foundation in Soweto, Chawelo, where he was residing. He was offered a scholarship through that Urban Foundation, which that Urban Foundation belongs to Oppenheimers. Okay, let's talk about Soweto. Soweto, Southwestern Township. That's the name of Soweto, what it means. That entire settlement of blacks, it was a labor reserve for the affluent society who was working in the mines. And Soweto, where the Oppenheimers gave 6 million for its establishment in the 60s. Why they created that is to create a class of black people who will be at least aloof from their general natives in the rural areas and Bantustans, so that people will aspire to go to Johannesburg. When they go to Johannesburg, they go and settle in Soweto, because in Soweto they've got 4 rooms with electricity, water, lights, toilet, something that is strange from the rural areas. I'm tracing Cyril, so that you understand the animal you're dealing with now.
Very important.
So then let's go back to the 70s. In 1976, the same Cyril, he's a student with Mosiwa Lekota, the late now. It is through Mosiwa Lekota that we hear that the Cyrils told the core what if not the police, when they were apprehended in 1976, and then they were taken to Robben Island, but before they are taken to Robben Island, Cyril offered to make an affidavit statement that he was influenced by Patrick Ricotta to infuse him with communistic ideas. Remember, in the 70s, it is just not far from the 60s, when in early 1960s, a communist act was passed for anyone seen to be practicing communism and infusing those ideas to the community. You'll be apprehended and taken to jail. It was so already in the 70s. He blames it to Ricotta. There was a time in Parliament, President Cyril, I think from 2018 when he entered office, he offered a trip that they should go to US. All of a sudden. And then Ricotta had to reply, but he replied in the assembly and said, President, I'm sorry to disappoint you, but the trip you want us to take now is not different from the trip that you needed to take with us to Robben Island, where you told the police that we have actually infused you with wrong ideas. So in principle, he's saying you were not part of the struggle. And you didn't pay the price, but you were dearly paid by the white establishment. Look at yourself, you even went to school. You managed to go and finish your schooling. And then after finishing the schooling, then you got roped into the white establishment. Establishment that controlled the South African economy, which is your Oppenheimers and the Ruperts. And by the way, these Oppenheimers and the Ruperts, let's trace them a little bit. Ernest Oppenheimer, who started in America in around 1917, he died in 1957. At that time, they're doing the same thing. In the 50s, they also identified Mandela.
Yes.
Now, you see, now I'm connecting dots. Cyril would emerge in the 70s because Mandela is in jail. They look for another black face whom they grooming. And this is part of intelligence report that came up from one of the Afrikaners whom I met. He says he overheard the late P.W. Botha or P. Botha, was the Minister of Foreign Affairs at the time. They were saying, now that the Mandela group is all in jail, we need to find another black voice that will emerge. At that time, the British were taking a knock because the Afrikaners had won election from 1948 until 1994, so they're controlling the entire economy for the Afrikaners. So the British, which were English people, were becoming second citizens, and they didn't like that. So they said, what can we do to thwart the process of the Afrikaner? And then look for blacks. Who is prominent amongst the blacks now that all political parties are banned? Look for the labor movement. In the labor movement, identify one of the students that were firebrands, and then you say, okay, you go to jail, but we take you in. You will tell us about the guys who went to jail, but we can make you something better if you can. Look, now they are in jail. So let's take you to school. When you come back, you come, and we see what we can do with you. That's how our president was groomed. Even Mandela in the 50s, I think it was Ernest Oppenheimer, the grandfather to Nikki Oppenheimer, who is alive, whose father is Harry Oppenheimer, who was born around 1938. He says to Mandela in the 50s, you remember Mandela used to wear a very nice suit with a good opening line here, and that was a result of him being asked by the Oppenheimer to say, hey Mandela, come here, just go to my tailor and get something to fix you something that will scoop up your image. It means to look beautiful, try to dress nice. So he was distinguishable from the other comrades in the Youth League, and since then, you want to tell me that the guy who was given an opportunity to get tailored suit from the Oppenheimers, is it a coincidence that he becomes the president of the country in 1994? And then go to 20th of June 1994 in America, front page, USA Today front page. It says, Oppenheimer saying, I am the power behind the victory of the ANC. So what does that say? to a critical mind. Hang on, Mandela is the guy who has liberated us. But what is this guy saying? But it didn't trend here in South Africa. It trended in America because it was addressing Americans. Why Americans? They have an interest in South Africa. You've heard during the tariff story, over 6,000 companies of Americans are here in South Africa. So if they decide to sanction South Africa, they have to think twice. Besides, we have a lot of white race who are better off here because they are supported by them. Pack all of that story. Let's go back to the Phala Phala story. I'm showing how conflicted our president by the capital, by the private sector.
Yes.
They then plotted because these new comrades that are coming out of exile and Robben Island are coming with a nationalistic ideas. I remember when Mandela addressed the Helen Suzman Foundation after 1990 release. He said, they asked me, what's your vision for South African economy? He said, we'll nationalize all the industries, nationalize the banks and all of that, which was the Freedom Charter, which they obviously drafted in the 50s, 1955. And they took a dive immediately when he made that statement. Because remember, he's a prominent figure to lead, to become the first black president. Here he makes a statement which is not good for the business. That's where Thabo Mbeki sneaked in because he's an economist from Sussex University who openly said he's a Thatcherite student. Margaret Thatcher, the former Prime Minister of Britain. So you can connect the dots. He did economy. So he said, data from now on, never use that term, nationalize. You're going to affect the economy. That's where the poster of the ANC in 1994 it changed to say market-driven policies of privatization as early as 1994. Sam Shilowa, who was the lead secretary of COSATU at the time, he fought hard on those privatization ideas because it's not good for the labor. It's a new country, new democracy. You're already privatizing. You're selling yourself out that you've been working in the private sector. If you're going to privatize in 94, we should carry everyone into confidence that we're going to adhere to the ideals of Freedom Charter where the land of the country shall be shared by all those who live in it. I've never heard something of that nature. It's very wrong as far as I'm concerned. Why? Go to every country. It doesn't say the land belongs to all those who live in it. You'll have a lot of arrivals who are going to come and live here, which means the land will belong to them. No, it should be belonging to the Aborigines people who are native of the land. Those who are incomers, they should have a determination of their state based on why they are here. And then we classify them as such, but you don't just open up like that. That's why Western Cape have a problem. The entire land has now been bought by individual whites in America, Europe, all countries where they love the ambience. They want to be part of it, but they also come in to do their agendas. Voice who are trying to reconcile the warring faction, and then eventually all people will believe, oh, this guy is a savior. Oh, he's not talking the language of GNU, he's not talking the language of the far leftists. So let's rather support these guys, let's say bunches. What they do, they support the ruling party and the opposition to fight as they fight. They are still the winner. Whoever wins, they collect that debt because they would have given you money. To say, we gave you money to establish, now it's your time to pay back. But no, we don't want that with those few millions. This is what we want. You pass a law in that parliament that is gonna be in favor of us. So learn the craft of election. We have an opportunity in this local government to boycott the current establishment by not giving them support. Is to say everyone who has a problem with the current establishment, I need all those voices to do one thing. I'll give you a reference in the history. Upon realizing the Afrikaner and the British that we cannot win the Africans combined, let's not divide our vote as white people. We are both coming from Europe. We are settlers in this land. Let's agree to isolate the natives from their land. We establish government. We join rule together against them, pass the laws. They mustn't participate through voting and so on. Let's do the same thing as blacks.
Our problem have already characterized them for you. Those who are sitting in government are backed by those who are outside government, those who control the sovereign economy, and it is those that are making it difficult for you to benefit, to find job, to find land, to be part of the economy, to be part of the laws. You won't win anything because for anything to move, they pay for it and it's their establishment. Everything that moves in South Africa, I can clearly say to you based on the book called South Africa Incorporated, Open Empire, everything is owned by them.
Yeah.
So your banks, your farms, your everything. Even if somebody saying, oh, me, I'm a self-made business person. No, you are getting this cross-directorship at Cipro where this white person is a director in this company and this guy is also a director in your company. Therefore, a deduction and conclusion. When it appears, it's like, oh, you are the majority shareholder. No, it's not about that. Look at the minority shareholding in all these over 500,000 companies that quadruplicated. Who is the minority shareholder is a common denominator of one person. So if I can actually be a shareholder in all companies registered, I am the major shareholder, but I don't appear as such. But it's like I own nothing, but I control everything. That's the strategy of the blockchain, the sound work.
Yes.
When you search them, oh, there's nothing about us, nothing about us. Okay, no, we know that trick. Those that are appearing behind them, it's you. So that's resolved. I want all people who have a problem with the establishment and say, we're gonna take our vote to an alternative voice to the current line. See if we cannot make a difference. This is no longer MK alone. It's every dissenting voice to what is happening.
Yes.
I am saying so that we win. I don't have to calculate numbers. By outlook, we are many as blacks. I'm saying all that black vote unite. The white race, they are controlling 87% of the land. Deliberately, I'm sharing those. There is a shortfall in my calculations because the state is sitting with a little bit of land, likely it is with the ones. And our president, he is elevated by those people, not by the 4,500 comrades in the conference. He divided the conference into two, so those who got the stipend to support this late, they won the day. But why did they win the day is because of the protection of the interest. I'm also told that our gold reserves, which was sitting in the likes of Britain, was supposed to be returned back. There are certain periods where our reserves should come back into the country. I think Venezuela ran that campaign where they wanted their gold reserve to be returned back into the country. And what happened is that he was challenged to the point of being deposed from his role. So in South Africa, a similar thing happened. During Jacob Zuma's presidency, he was not willing to sign the continuation of the keeping of our reserve account. Then they made sure that in the conference that delayed his candidate, which was Zwelakhe Zuma. But let's come back. Phala Phala here is with us now.
Yes.
The Concord has made a decision to say the parliament process of listening to the matter of Phala Phala was thwarted by majority vote, wherein most members of parliament were told how to vote, and they so-called won the day. The matter has not been brought back to parliament for us to look at it. This is what's going to happen, I will tell you now, because they are in a GNU. Those who are in the GNU cabinet, if they want to continue to be members of the GNU cabinet, they must support the president not to be impeached or not to be voted out. So currently they're sitting with a majority vote to make those decisions. There's 10 parties that support GNU. So they will take the same stance. What they will do now, they will lobby all the 10 parties. Then proportionally identify members of the impeachment committee. And those numbers will be such that it's calculated that when the opposition decide to vote against the motion of no confidence over the president, they don't succeed because the numbers will be telling. But it will be the numbers of those who are already sitting at GNU. So that is how to start the process. There are two processes. One, there's impeachment, there's vote of no confidence granted. If we lose, this is what South Africans must do. They must take all those 10 parties in parliament and form GNU. Just label them and say they are all defeating the ends of justice in allowing the president to break all the laws according to the ethics of his office, and all of them would have protected him to say there's nothing wrong with the president, they stand for that reason. Play on. Let's go to the 4th of November. I want to see South Africans who will then support that the person must continue to break laws and continue to occupy office. I'm looking for those who defended the Constitution. I'm missing those voices. There were guys who were Sikh defenders of the Constitution. They were rallying in the street during Zuma's time. I want to see those voices coming back and say, I'm no longer interested into the laws being broken. So who's breaking the law this time? Oh, is it us? Oh, it's a sitting question. Is there a matter to solve? My point is, it is immaterial what will happen is theatrics, but I hope this time South Africans, as they vote these parties, and this is what I need to expose. In all those 10 parties, all of them are funded by Rupert and Bob. So which means here we are dealing with the same businessmen who brought the dollars in, guys. You have the formulation of their parties, you finance them to sit in parliament, to decide on policies that are in your favor. Against you, the masses of South Africa. That's my problem. So again, here, these parties are representing 2 individuals' interests. What is that? Keeping the economy in the hands of the private sector and private individual. Where is the national agenda of developing black majority, getting their land back? None. So the issue of land, which we discussed in the portfolio committee, I can tell you now, they say it will take 40 years for us to be returned our land. 40 years from now. Why? You have to do numericals based on the application put of people who want their land back. If we were to use modern day budgetary allocations of the legal beats of settlements we do in terms of land, at least we can wait for 40 years. Then I said, that's nonsense. All of these property portfolios of commercial, residential, you name them, all of them combined as association, they must pay. And then you have Sandra who built N1, N2, N3, all the national roads and the provincial roads. They are making money every millisecond. They must pay. And Service Delivery Council, 257 of the municipalities in South Africa, all of them are sitting on land that was taken from the tribe. They are making money through rates, taxes that they are paying, and people are paying out. You go to a valuation roll of every municipality, you'll find the property values of every property that will give you amount of money they're making as that municipality, and then put the total together. It's money owed to all those who were forcibly removed by the law of 1950 and 1955 Forced Removal Act, which gave back to your districts in Cape Town, Sophia Town in Johannesburg, Mkumbane, Ketamene in Durban, and then and so on and so forth in Eastern Cape. This is what we are sitting with. So you don't need to wait 40 years. That is a numerical value based on your formula of calculation. My formula of calculating land claims payout is these stakeholders I've just mentioned. Let's calculate from 1913 how much they've made until today. That is over 115 years. Calculate every annual financial statement of everyone. How much they've made. That money is what they made should be brought back to the people now.
Yes.
That's what we call in economics opportunity cost. What is opportunity cost? Value of the foregone opportunity. What does that mean? It means the amount of time that it took you to make money in my property since you took it from me. The equivalent of what you made is equivalent of what you should pay me back. So blacks should be paid so much by all these stakeholders. Now, that will make the billions to settle the issue of land claim. So I can solve land claim issue now. Absolutely. If you say I must be a minister of land reform because I know who benefited. I'm not going for government alone. I will tell you who benefited. I know them by heart, and I have a list of them. And then I'll say, Anglo America, you must pay. Pam Golding, you need to pay. Sandra, you are sitting with land pockets, you're making money every day. You need to pay. Why pay? Part of the national roads are crossing over the land of some of the tribes that were forcibly removed to make way for this highway. Same applies with municipalities. All municipalities, let me give you one example. Enutu local municipality in KwaZulu-Natal, it is sitting on the land of Inkosi Uwelankobese, the municipality. So they are taking that Inkosi to court over a land which was bequeathed by the father of the current Inkosi. It doesn't make sense. But it's because the laws we're using are such that are protecting those who dispossess things. I ask the question, are the Roman, Dutch and British laws repentant now and holy that in 1913 were used to dispossess us? In 1994 and 2026 is still being used the same law to return my land. How possible is that? Because when my predecessor King Tingsoi was putting King Shaka on the throne to establish the Zulu kingdom which we have today, there were no whites, there were no British, there were no Dutch, there were no Romans. But today, for Inkosi to be returned this land, you need to consult a British king, Charles. You need to consult Dutch king. You need to consult the Roman Pope. If they agree, then you get your land according to their term. Not in my watch.
Yes.
Not here.
Oh, that is
as I'm here.
Yes.
I know the law.
Yeah.
I will read them and then explain them. But I also know the native laws. I know how we ruled in our time. We didn't need a white person. So a white person cannot tell us how we should do things today. It's that simple and it's that difficult. So my statement is that our president is not standing for us, he's standing for those who gave him money. The reason why he said, I'm not going to leave office, I'm going to put into review the judgment of the Concord. Unfortunately, Concord is the last court of appeal. When they make a decision, it is final, you comply before you complain. But because he is put by the same culprits who crafted their constitution for their benefit, they allow him a way out, which we call in law escapism clause, to say go and challenge it. But it's not just challenging. The aftermath is going to still be the same, but the timing will be different. It's a buying of time. They are looking for an alternative to say if Cyril falls, who can take over Cyril's position? So they are already planting Petrus Motsepe, successful businessman who can do investment, who can take this country out of problem. No, he comes from the same establishment. We are not foolish. But fine, the point is they are looking for an alternative, and their time is not over because the promise was 10 years. So if you want to take the person out now, there's certain clauses, there's certain contracts that are running. He still needs to sign the certain things that they want to benefit. So you can't take him out now. So they want to play that legal jargon. Not in our time. We are educated, we are smarter, and we are faster, and we're not going to allow it. But it's fine. We are exposing the system so that when we say in our manifesto, remove Roman, Dutch and British law, these are the reasons. If you don't remove a foreign law that is applicable in your jurisdiction, that law becomes the commercial business language of the day and it becomes your cultural heritage. Therefore, you find yourself practicing a Roman law, Dutch law, British law without knowing while claiming to be a native. And it tells you, dictates to you how you're going to conduct yourself. Go look at the court system, the magistrate system of the courts that you find in every town and city of South Africa. The name my lord, as you refer to a judge or magistrate in court, it has its reference to a king who used to be a judge in his own jurisdiction. It was not based on a magistrate or a judge who happens to sit in an agency of a court system of the British or the Dutch. But today it's misconstrued. That land, when you trace the tribe that used to own that land is just outside the city or the town. But now we have agents who have subscribed to the Romantic petition. Those are the people who are running the show and are listening to the ones who control the South African economy. That is rigged.
So everything is rigged. We know that. Our courts, our prosecutors, prosecution systems, the SAPs, law enforcement, etc. What about the IEC? This is no independent electoral commission. This is a ill or unindependent electoral commission. So here is another problem that we face. 4th of November, we're going into elections. What do you think we need to do, and what do we need to mobilize on, and what should we do? What should all people, all citizens, patriots of this country do in view of this electoral commission, which is really exactly like you explain how the Oppenheimers, Ruppets, etc. manipulate the system.
In answer to your question, what should everyone do starting from now? It's a view that I would have shared as well as we were busy in our caucus to say, let's have the end game. The end game is to win on the 4th of November. So you study the developments as of today. The outcome of what will happen in Parliament, what we will be doing, should be a build-up process. We need to have an inside Parliament activism against our president and outside Parliament activism against our president. The similar manner that they've done with our President Zuma. You stage our civilians, those who are in support of our mission. You must stage campaigns across and outside the Parliament as civil society bodies across, to make it ungovernable for the state to continue. Because it can't be that the Chief Justice of the Concord issue an instruction which is obviously pointing to our current president, and he responds with arrogance that says, I will continue. If he was actually humble enough, he would say, I must take a bow, because he's been always looking for a legal way of doing things. This is it. Let's reflect. When the process of Parliament was started, they said that was the way to go. Now the Concord is saying it was wrong. So we shouldn't even be repeating another process. Yes. Because this judgment is saying what you did then was wrong. So now the deduction and conclusion is that you are not going to do anything as you no longer have that room. You must toe the line, comply, but they are not. Who will ever tell us again to comply with the law when the sitting president has been found to be wanting in his practice? But we already know the laws that have been broken in this, but it's fine. We then must agree as the people of South Africa. If you don't like the regime we're on, look what has just happened. What used to be the freedom fighters movement of the people, liberation movement, is now sleeping on the same bed with those whom they were fighting against. What is the outcome of the combination? Surely it's not about your people. This is where then we must come and say, okay, these guys are not long about us. Let's have let's boycott the election by not supporting them, and then support any voice that speaks for the people for something different than the current establishment. Well, surely it's not. But being aware behind this GNU arrangement, it is the business people. So we must also be on the look. There are other black people out there who will then be empowered financially to emerge as neutral voice who are trying to reconcile the warring faction, and then eventually all people will believe, oh, this guy is a savior. Oh, he's not talking the language of GNU, he's not talking the language of the far leftists. So let's rather support these guys, the same parties. What they do, they support the ruling party and the opposition to fight as they fight. They are still the winner. Whoever wins, they collect that debt because they would have given you money to say, we gave you money to establish, now it's your time to pay it. But no, we don't want those few million. This is what we want. You pass a law in that parliament that is gonna be in favor of us. So learn the craft of election. We have an opportunity in this local government to boycott the current establishment by not giving them support. Is to say everyone who has a problem with the current establishment, I need all those voices to do one thing. I'll give you a reference in the history. Upon realizing the Afrikaners and the British that we cannot win the Africans combined, let's not divide our vote as white people. We are both coming from Europe. We are settlers in this land. Let's agree to isolate the natives from their land. We establish government. We join rule together against them, pass the laws. They mustn't participate through voting and so on. Let's do the same thing as blacks. Our problem, I've already characterized them for you. Those who are sitting in government are backed by those who are outside government, those who control the sovereign economy, and it is those that are making it difficult for you to benefit, to find job, to find land, to be part of the economy, to be part of the laws. You won't win anything because for anything to move, they pay for it and it's their establishment. Everything that moves in South Africa, I can clearly say to you based on the book called South Africa Incorporated, Oppenheimer Empire, everything is owned by them. Yeah. So your banks, your farms, your everything. Even if somebody saying, oh, me, I'm a self-made business person. No, you are getting, there's cross-directorship at CIPRO where this white person is a director in this company and this guy is also a director in your company. Therefore, a deduction in conclusion. When it appears, it looks like, oh, you are the majority shareholder. No, it's not about that. Look at the minority shareholding in all these over 500,000 companies I've mentioned, quadruplicated. Who is the minority shareholder is a common denominator of one person. So if I can actually be a shareholder in all companies registered, I am the major shareholder, but I don't appear as such. But it's like I own nothing, but I control everything. That's the strategy of the Rothschild. That's how they work. Yes. When you search them, oh, there's nothing about us, nothing about us. Okay, no, we know the truth. Those that are appearing behind them, it's me. So that's the result. I want all people who have a problem with the establishment and say, we're gonna take our vote to an alternative voice to the current one. See if we cannot make a difference. This is no longer MK alone. It's every dissenting voice to what is happening. Yes. I am saying so that we win. I don't have to calculate numbers. By outlook, we are many as blacks. I'm saying all that black vote, unite. Why? The establishment is against you. Just unite for once. You will see the white minority capital is a minority. They are using your numbers to bring them in their folds. But once they get your vote as blacks, they advance a white agenda against the black. The same black who supported them, they don't make it into the echelons of leadership. Look at the current elections now. From a white person to another white person. If there's a black person advancing, they tell you, you didn't pay your tithes in the last financial year, therefore you are relegated from the race. Remember the lady from Free State? That's how she needs to because she was black. Or then white. Or then they got into say he will become the federal chair just as a black face to win other blacks into their vote. But the agenda is still white. You don't control, you don't pass any law in parliament that is against a white person. Oh, by the way, this book, Oppenheimer Empire, is also saying something very important. It says after we have amassed all the economy of South Africa, we will use that economy to advance the welfare of the white race. So every white person will be cushioned, whether they are low class or middle class or high class, and they'll be cushioned such that the value chain and the benefits, they still do not benefit. As much as they are poor, but they can afford a car. They can afford a flat and sustain it in the municipality. In fact, in some municipalities, they are not even paying rates. They are exemption. Because the laws that govern those bylaws, they were made in the old order that still applicable today. So they are cushioned. The laws cushion them, economy cushions them, everything cushions them. And market access, it's also them. When Europe, America, when they want to do anything, they are doing it for the white race in our native land to say, use these blacks to advance your cause. Blacks need to know that. So I'm not dictating whom you must support. Be aware, whoever you support, that is also the same person as against you. So if you see a situation not changing, don't come here and blame us and say, yeah, you guys, because you lost them. No, you lended your voice to say a white man can speak for you, but when a white man is in control, they advance their own agenda. As they are contesting that they continue where they ended in terms of control. They are saying now they will want to be growing in KZN as the largest party. My question is, will they support that the Zulu Kingdom become a constitutional monarch where the Zulu King is the one who will be running the government? Will they support that? And they must support that not according to government judgment, but law. They must support it according to the Zulu law. Yes. Change the laws into your native cultures. See if a white man will survive one day. Never survive. That's what I'm saying. You are a Zulu, you are a Pedi, you are a Tswana, you are a Tsonga, you are Indian, you are a Khoi and the San. Run your land, your municipality, everything according to your culture. See if the white man can be able to understand that. Why? Because in 1835, in the British Parliament, Lord Macaulay said, I've never seen such people who are so rich, but if you want to oppress them, change their culture, sell the English culture. Once they absorb English culture, they're perfect candidate for oppression. So understand your loss of your culture and heritage was a tool that was used against you. So now that you live English, that's your downfall. Because anything English says nothing about Khoi and San, says nothing about Zulu, says nothing about Pedi. Court system is against you, business language is against you. You want to go and trade in diamonds, they don't speak your Zulu language. And they're not interested because you don't appear in the scheme of things. Let me also share this one maybe as my parting shot. And a professor or a lecturer in the university, I think it's Erasmus University, I think they said Professor Hoover, if I'm not mistaken, he was telling the student to say, we need to use the minerals of Africa because we need those minerals for cheap, for nothing. So they saying they must take every mineral in Africa to better the lives of Europeans, Americans, you name them. Because if Africa can take over and manufacture goods and services for themselves, it is the end of the first world countries that depend on Africa. So it is them who divide Africa, it is them who stage the wars, it is them who make arms, it is them who make bullets, it is them who tell a black brother to go and shoot another black brother. Once there is instability, that's a perfect time to invade the country. And once they invade the country, they loot everything there and massacre around themselves. By the time they reach settlements of peace, everything is taken. Yes. I need blacks to understand that. Yes. That's how you rule, you run. If you can understand that, you will never wake up tomorrow, start a war with another black person, because a black on black war has no crown. Period. Absolutely. You couldn't have said it better. I think that's an answer to the question on the elections and the IEC. So I think we've had a long conversation here. So let me thank the viewers for listening, and this is an important one to listen from start to finish.
If it's you find it too long, put it on pause, or note the portion that you've stopped at and continue watching this one. This one is critical. It gives us an analysis, and it gives us a way forward on what we need to do and what we need to prepare for the upcoming local government elections. So thank you very much. Like, subscribe and share. No Land, No Freedom. And keep following Honorable Zwelakhe on his TikTok page, myself on my TikTok page, and you'll receive constant updates. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.